If you draft these running backs, don't be surprised when you're looking for replacements by October. Today, we're breaking down six RBs that we believe are being massively overdrafted in fantasy football right now. We've got aging veterans, injury concerns, crowded backfields, and one player whose production completely disappeared whenever his quarterback wasn't on the field. Our first running back you must avoid in fantasy drafts for 2026 is Christian McCaffrey. And I want to start with this 370 plus touch stat. So since 2016, there have been nine running backs, not including 2025 CMC, that have had over 370 plus touches since 2016. And only one of them got better, which was 2018 Ezekiel Elliott. And 2023 Derrick Henry was worse, but was still up to finish as the RB8 that season. What this stat means that seven out of these nine RBs have had a significant drop off after having 370 plus touches in a season. So CMC is already fighting an historic battle that we already saw him lose back in 2020. And with CMC dropping from 5 yards per attempt back in 2023 down to 3.9 last season in 2025, there is major cause for concern about him losing a step and just producing off of sheer volume last season. And none of those are really my number one concerns with CMC for me. Injuries are the most worrisome, as we've seen over his whole career that he can't stay healthy, and he just turned 30, which is historically another drop off for running backs of that age. And I personally feel like you can't win your league in round one. You can only lose it. And I think CMC is definitely the riskiest pick in the first round this season. And if he gets hurt, your season is practically over. All right. Our second running back that we are avoiding this year is Devon Achane.
The reason why you should avoid him now is the Dolphins are in full rebuild mode, and they project out to be a bottom three offense in the league now. They brought in a running quarterback in Malik Willis, which should bring down the floor with Achane having less targets and less receptions. With not much help in this offense and a run-first approach now, I feel like we can see Achane see way more stacked boxes, which will bring down his efficiency from what we saw last season of 5.7 yards per carry all the way down to in the 4 to low 5 range. But in the range where I see that Achane's going, I feel like he's a player. If he's a player that can most likely lose you your league if taken in the first round, early second, because yes, he's a young player. He just got an extension, but this offense is not built to what he did so well last year and catch the football.
Yeah, I just feel like in the first round, he really does not have the upside of really any of the other players now. With that offense being so terrible, they're really gonna have no red zone opportunities. This offense is gonna be terrible. And also another thing is HN, he does really have it. He does have an injury history. Back in 2023, he missed a bunch of games. I know he's actually been pretty healthy though
Mhm.
in 2024 and 2025, but that is something to be cause for concern if he's gonna have a monster workload because there's really no one else in this offense. An injury is definitely possible, and it would make me slightly worried about him.
And like you said, the touchdowns are just going to go down. I mean,
Hmm.
he didn't really thrive off touchdowns. Like touchdown scoring wasn't his big game, but he did put up 12 total touchdowns last season. But I wouldn't be surprised if that number goes down to 6 total touchdowns this season.
And you kind of need touchdowns when your efficiency is going to drop because of how bad this
Yeah.
offense is going to be. So the floor isn't really there for me, and the ceiling is also not there. So I just think him with an average ADP of 13, I just think it is not. He should not be going that high. I would prefer guys like Hampton and Saquon over him, like we've
Yeah,
said.
like I said, if you were picking him in the third round, fine. First round, too high. Way too
Way
high.
too high.
This just screams, like stacked boxes. And I hope that they can sign a receiver, like maybe now. I don't know, it's a little late, but maybe add someone, trade for someone. But the way that this receiving room looks, those boxes will be stacked, and that efficiency on the ground will not be as good as we saw last year.
And I'm sure he will have spike games. Like I'm sure he will have games where he breaks off that 70-yard touchdown, but you really just can't bank on that every game. Like how else is he going to score points when he doesn't get lucky and the O-line plays great and he just breaks off a long run? Like he's not, I mean, PPR you hope, but Malik Willis is now the quarterback, so he's losing that. And you just really I really don't think there's another way for you to pick him in the first round when he's losing so much of what he's had the last couple
And
years.
if you look at the graphic you put here on the screen, all the games he played with Tua were significantly higher than without Tua.
Hmm.
This is from a season ago. He averaged 16.46 points with Tua, all the way down to around 8 points without him.
Yeah.
It got really low to a point that it's concerning now, and it's something to look into.
Okay. Our third running back we are avoiding is Jaylen Warren.
So we know Jaylen Warren had a great year last year, finishing as the RB17. He was picked very late in drafts last year, what we saw with Caleb Johnson getting picked before him. And also, we all thought it would be the Caleb Johnson versus Warren. And then Gainwell came out of nowhere and became He finished even higher as the RB16. But I'm avoiding Jaylen Warren because I believe that Rico Dowdle is a better player than Kenneth Gainwell, as we saw last year. Um, Also, I'm going to read a stat here. For touchdowns, Warren's success rate on the goal line was 27.8%, compared to last year with Dowdle, it was 61.5%. I also believe that the Steelers' offense is way too inconsistent. I'm not a fan of that offense, especially with Aaron Rodgers in his last season. I think he's going to be worse. Um, Also, Warren has a very low ceiling. There's a new head coach. There might be a whole new offensive scheme that even takes Warren out of the offense as a whole. So yeah.
And
But
Warren,
Warren's scheme,
he's never not been in a committee. Like he's always been a
Mhm.
committee. So you can't expect him to never not be in one. And I know them signing Rico to a tier, though he's going to be in one. It can be a three-man committee with new coaching and Caleb Johnson in there now. So you just really don't know. And I do think Rico is the better runner. So you just have to hope that
Mhm.
he becomes the third down back for this team, which he wasn't last year. Gainwell stole that from him. So.
Literally a
yeah,
guaranteed committee in Pittsburgh.
well, I think that Jaylen Warren will have more of the Kenneth Gainwell role in a way because Rodgers likes throwing to backs. We know that. And that's the only way I could see that Warren can be solid is if he gets a big receiving role because we saw Mike McCarthy. He used a committee in Dallas with Zeke and Pollard. So yeah, he's definitely going to be a committee, and Warren's always been in a committee. But it's just how much is he going to play? Because I don't think he gets the goal line touches at all.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I just don't think I don't think he's worth the seventh round pick. He doesn't really have the upside. He has no
No,
upside really. He can't finish as a top 12 back. I don't think. I mean, I
But
think
he can be a
last year was his
solid.
best opportunity to, and he couldn't. I just
and when you take him
don't
in the
think he can.
seventh round, that's in your flex position or your RB2 position, which is like I'm definitely not confident at all if he's my RB2.
Mhm.
I'm really not confident in my flex as well. I'd rather one of those high upside receivers in that sixth and seventh round instead of a guy like Warren with a very low ceiling and not much upside.
Continuing on, our RB4 that we are avoiding is Bucky Irving. And starting with this graphic shows that running backs yards after contact and tackles avoided per carry and rush attempts with 1+ yard before contact. And in 2025, as you can see, Bucky really just wasn't good last year. As you can see, he's really all the way on the left on this graphic. And I think a really big part of Bucky's success back in his rookie season was Liam Cohen's run scheme. And as we saw, Travis Achane had a bounce back in 2025 after a really big down year in 2024. And the Buccaneers did just sign Kenneth Gainwell to a 2-year, $14 million contract with $9 million guaranteed. So he's going to have the receiving role in this offense after having 70 receptions last season. And the Buccaneers also still do have Sean Tucker, who took the goal line work away from Bucky at the end of the 2025 season last year. So Gainwell is now the third down back and receiving back compared to where Sean Tucker is the goal line back for this offense. So Bucky in the fourth round of this draft, when he really has none of the two main goals that give you points in fantasy, and he's really not he's not a runner that's going to break away a 60-yard touchdown. I just don't think he's capable of that. He's not the fastest straight line. He's more of a side to side agility guy. So him in the fourth round, I don't think that's great value, and he really has no upside to do what he did in his rookie year when he has none of the main rules. He's not going to be a great receiving back, and he's not going to be the goal line back. We don't think. So I just think he's a pick in this fourth round that is going to cost you your league.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was flat out horrible last year. He averaged around 17 carries a game and only had about 3.4 yards per attempt. That's flat out horrible. For a guy, like you said, taken so high in the fourth round, he will definitely lose your league. Yes, there's a way he can play better, but Sean Tucker and Kenneth Gainwell are still there. He had one touchdown and completely lost the goal line role. Yes, he was still serviceable as a receiver, averaging 3 catches a game, but still, not going to cut it in the fourth round. Avoid, avoid, avoid.
And look at that sleeper ADP right there. We see 29th overall. That's more like a high third round pick. So you're wasting that high of a pick on a guy like this. Not smart.
And another thing is the injury concern. Last year coming in, he was the full workhorse running back weeks 1 through 4 for that offense, and then he got hurt and he was out for a while. And I just think that really lost the trust from the coaching staff that he can't. He's such a small back that he can't withstand the big workload, and he's just gonna get hurt. I know he was in a committee with Rashad White his rookie year too. He didn't play over 60% of the snaps, I'm pretty sure, when White was on the field. So I just think now, like with them knowing he can't have that big of a workload. He's not going to this year, and that's why they brought in Gamewell and they made Sean Tucker the goal line back towards the end of last year.
And coming into camp, they still said that he was injured. Yes, he's back on the practice field now, but it's just something that that we haven't seen full transparency with that injury. So another reason why I would still avoid.
Okay, continuing on, our RB5 that we are avoiding is Quinshon Judkins.
Right now, the Browns have the worst projected offense in the league and are projected to score the least amount of points. And now he's coming off a major injury. As we see, look at this chart right now. We saw Tony Pollard in 2023 have a fantastic season, averaging 15.5 fantasy points per game, and then fractured his fibula in the playoff game versus San Francisco 49ers. And then you see in 2024, his points per game dropped by a full 3 points. And now you look at Isaiah Pacheco, who in 2023 averaged 15.2 points per game. And then in 2023, he was a high pick in the early second round, started out averaging 12.5 points per game. And then fractured his fibula. Towards the end of the season, weeks 13 through 17, he was flat out horrible, unplayable, cuttable from your team, averaging 3.2 points per game. So now Judkins has come back to camp healthy. Hopefully he doesn't drop off like these guys, but it's still a major red flag for me right now. He wasn't efficient last year, only averaging 3.6 yards per carry. So I don't know how much better he can get, especially coming off a major injury, and was nothing in the receiving game. He only averaged 2.5 targets and 2 catches per game. Around the area where you could see him in his ADP, I would pick guys to draft like Swift, Montgomery, or Jadarian Price in that range. So that's why he's a big avoid for me and all of us.
Yeah, the main thing
Yeah.
is that he's going to see stacked boxes though, because this offense is probably going to be terrible. And with whoever's that quarterback between Watson and Shedeur, it doesn't really matter. I don't think the offense will be any good. I know they have two new rookies in the receiving room, but I still don't think it's going to take any massive jump from where it was last year. And another main thing is they're going to be down in a bunch of games, and he's not the receiving back. Dylan Sampson is the receiving back for this offense. He had multiple games where he played over 40% of snaps, Dylan Sampson. So when they're down in games, which they will be this year, it's just how does he score points without a touchdown? It's really you can't bank on it. And how many touchdowns is he going to score because of how bad this offense is? I know he had a couple games. He had some great games last year, but they played against bad teams and he just broke off big runs, which you can't rely on big runs, let's say, for a player like him, especially coming off the fibula fracture, which is not he is an historic battle that he's fighting against because these last two running backs, they've really performed a lot worse in their first season back. But Pollard, he did take a step back up in efficiency after his 2024 season.
And also, I want to highlight even Pacheco. Pacheco last year, which is a full year after that tibial injury, was horrible. He was terrible. I had him on my team. I drafted him in the 6th round. It was a mistake. The guy averaged what, like 9 points last year? I think probably less.
If even, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean that's a huge red flag, you know?
All right, our final player that we are avoiding for the 2026 season, we got Chuba Hubbard.
So Chuba Hubbard finished as the RB40 last year, which is terrible. We know we see Rico Dowdle with Pittsburgh, as we talked about before. You could be like, oh, maybe there's not much competition anymore. It's better for him. But no, just look at the numbers last year. His inefficiency is a huge problem. He's also aging. He can get beat out by Jonathan Brooks like this. We've talked about Jonathan Brooks on this channel. We're huge believers in Brooks, and I just believe that Hubbard is not good enough to really sustain this job. You also got to look at the offense. The Carolina Panthers offense is another inconsistent mid offense. When I'm taking my running backs, I want to draft one in a really solid offense. So that means touchdowns. We can see Brooks in the goal line more. Chuba was not that good on the goal line last year. He had 0 explosive runs last year, just super inefficient, and just not a good back in any aspect last year.
Yeah, we saw Chuba from weeks 1 through 8. He played over 60% of the snaps, and really once Rico was playing the way he was, and he had those 2 monster games, they took away Chuba's snaps. They dropped him down to less than 30% of snaps per game, and it really is a situation that if Jonathan Brooks comes out and he plays really well and he's really efficient, I think there's no reason why they wouldn't give him the role when they invested a 2nd-round pick into him. So
Yep.
Chuba might be solid to start the year, like the first couple weeks, but once I think Brooks gets going and gets acclimated, I'd say, to this offense and to playing, really, he hasn't played much. I think that there's nothing stopping Brooks from taking this role from Chuba.
I mean, he wasn't really much of a receiver this year and wasn't much of the receiver last year. So you're not getting that consistent floor you're getting from a lot of other guys. But you saw, like you said, his efficiency went down a lot. Only had 1 touchdown. He had 10 the season before. His yards per carry dropped a full yard. He only averaged 2 catches a game. that wasn't going to cut it. Even though he started out the first couple games of the season, as soon as he got hurt, the job was stripped away from him. So, like I said, he's expected to be the starter coming out of the season, but Jonathan Brooks can easily take away that role, just like Rico Dowdle did last season.
And we know how good Brooks could be. In his last season in college, he had over 1,400 total yards with around 11 touchdowns. So, I mean, this guy's an elite player. There's a reason they took him in the second round. They're going to use him, and he's healthy now. So, look for a big year from Brooks and a bad year from Hubbard.
Yeah, so this is a fade Chuba and buy Brooks channel for
Yeah.
sure.
100%.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed. Avoid these guys. Hey, take if you want to lose your league, but like, subscribe, and keep following us for more videos.
If you like losing, take him.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.